Welcome everyone to our next webinar. Been doing these for quite a while now, and created quite a community. Just love all the stuff that we talk about. Everywhere I go, every time I get phone calls, he says we get a lot of people that certainly they can't make all of these, but they watch them on YouTube and get answers and or even better yet, some ideas on how to get things going in their data analysis and data setup and hardware. So really appreciate everybody that comes to these. You know, this is our 192nd one of these that we've done since the pandemic hit in March of 2020. So let's talk about this topic that we're going to talk about today, which is underused Ray Studio 3 functions. It's one of those things that as I talk to people daily, either on the phone or a lot of Zoom calls or different ways of different video meetings, you know, TeamViewer and such, Google now and Windows product. The I talk to people we always I'll jump around and I'll do something and they go, I didn't know it would do that. And so I've done a couple of other ones like this over the years. I'd like to do one of these about every 2 or 3 years or every year maybe, where we just come in and show you some things that maybe a lot of people don't know is out there for them, and there's a lot of that. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about underused Ray Studio 3 functions and take a look at some of them you may know, some of them you may not. We're going to hit about 20 of them, and and it's all going to be in live data. So if you have some questions or comments or something that you know is pretty close to what we're talking about, throw them up into the question and answer box, and Matt and I will keep our eyes on that. And we, if it fits in and something we're prepared to talk about, we'll jump in. So make sure you do that if you have something that you would like us to show. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Matt. He's going to start. He's got 8 or 9 different ones that he's going to kind of cover real quickly, and then we're going to roll on. So looking forward to it, Matt. There you go. Let me unshare my screen, and then you share
All
yours.
right,
Let me stop my share. There you go. You should be ready to share yours.
get us going.
Making the sausage here in real time, right here. So
Right,
there, it's starting
here
to come
we
across,
go.
Matt, and it hasn't gotten here yet, but it's starting. There it is. We see you. We're
All
ready
right.
to go. You might want to slide that one Zoom box off to the side. It's covering up part of the. There's a little arrow there. Usually you can tap on it. There you go. It's ready to.
There we
We're
go.
seeing your entire screen now.
Um, all right. So the first thing I wanted to jump into is I think it's a really neat feature that was added recently that a lot of people don't know, and it's before we get into opening a file, we can see up here that we have, or I have it set up right now for advanced mode, and we can change that to be a simplified mode. And when we do that, it takes out a lot of the options and it makes looking at your data super easy because we get a preset profile that we use. So as it opens up here, what we can see is we have a basic set of layouts and the channels are kind of already populated for us, and it gives us a bunch of data. So the first thing we see here is we have speed trace, and my setup is a little bit odd. What yours will actually have here is engine speed or RPM, and you get your video if you have it, and the laps toolbar down at the bottom. So it opens it up right to the kind of information that you really need. And if you happen to be a go-karter, this hits it right where you want it. So you can dig in.
Kind of what
And
that
then,
simplified mode was really designed around, right?
yeah, but I found so many
Me
people,
too.
if you want to do that quick analysis, you can jump in here and it gives you the basics. I use it a whole bunch as well. Um, you can hop over, same thing. We get our time distance and the track map. We get the a split report populated for us, a channels report with the basics in it, the track map split report, and a track map. And one of the neat things to remember with the track map is we can always go in here and color it by anything we want. So we can pick our color method and say we want a channel. We can look at speed, pop that in here, and now we're colored by speed. So it gives you this option to without having to click a lot of things, we get all this data and we get a way to look at it and work on our driving rather than work on the software.
This specific thing was an enhancement not too long ago where there were some things they could not show over the top of the background image, and that's all been fixed now. So that's that. And then Matt, maybe you show fairly quickly that you and I know like it both. We like to widen the line when we do something like this. So you can make this a little bit thicker and a bigger line if you want to see it a little bit better.
Definitely, it's one of the ones I do pretty much every time I make this map, and it's saved in my profiles. If you look here, we have a button that has the lines with the sides on it. The default is 2. When I'm really getting into the map, I like to make it 9, so it's as big as possible. And it lets me see the colors a little bit better as I'm going through it.
You can see the transition of colors much easier. Exactly.
Right. It works for me a little bit better in how I like to go through it. Yeah. And it was one of them I had on here for later, but I think it's a great way to look at information here. Is we can go through, and now in the channels list, there's this little box, and hopefully everyone sees it next to the cogged wheel. And when you click that, it lets you pick that channel for the colored item on the map. So we don't have to go through and right click or pick those things. We just click a button and it's there. So we can see, here's the brake pressure on this lap, and you can see all the spots you hit it, but you can pick any channel, as Roger said. We can go in here and pick throttle. And I think this is one I see a lot of people don't do all the time, is to use that search bar. It was something I didn't understand when it was first added, and it's now something I couldn't live without. I don't spend any time scrolling.
Me too.
Here you can see the throttle position through all these spots. So really powerful way to use this map. And we see we're doing all this sort of quick analysis and looking at the data just off of the simplified mode. The other ones I wanted to show you were in what we call the advanced mode. So I'm going to open this file back up, and then now I'm going to have all those options that we use all the time. It's a neat way, though, that I switch in between these and I show them to people all the time to do the different things. The first one I want to do, if we just hop in here in our time distance, and I'm going to put it, so we just have a speed trace, our basic profile, is this laps button. This is one of the buttons I couldn't live without anymore. I use it all the time. Is if I'm looking at my data, I can put up all my laps. This is a short session, so there's only a few. And actually, let's go. We'll pick a better session. And pick a good one. Let's hop in. This won't go out for the world, right? Haha. We'll open up this session, go through, and we'll show you how we can use this laps button to automatically pick our laps, so we don't have to go through and do them all. When we pick it, we can pick our best, all the laps, so we're going to get that full trace. And we can see all of them laid out here. But we can go in and say just our best lap. And I use this button all the time if I'm looking at some other laps. It's a really easy way to get back to that best one without having to go through any of the toolbars. We can pick our 3 or 5 best laps. So now we can see how consistent. Really quickly, we can see turn 1. We can see here and here maybe aren't the most consistent. So it gives us a quick way to hone in to do some of our analysis. We also have the ability to pick the best laps of a particular segment. So if you're looking and you go, geez, I really want to look at the best 3 performances in segment 3, we can use that and it'll put those laps up, and we can see it's 2, 3, and 6. Super powerful way to go through. And then we can also pick the first 3 or the last 3, those sorts of things. So if you're an analysis race at a endurance racer and you want to do that analysis and see how the beginning and the end look, it gives you a really easy way to do that. But here we're just going to pop back to our first. Another button that I use all the time now is in the tracks button. I go in and I will set this to say 1 segment. And then this is how I start to do all my segment analysis. So then I might click a point, go in and divide the segment at the cursor position and go through and set my segments. I use this when I end up with a lot of different segments. It's the quickest way for me to go through and put it how I want. Um, but if you want 5 and you know you want 5, you can go in, pick the 5 segments, and then when you unlock it, you can just shift them around to where you want. We're already unlocked, so we can just shift these to those points and really quickly get our segments. If you want to, you can go in, rename it, and call this one, my bad typing, turn 4, and go forward. So it gives you that power to do these things really fast and not having to spend a bunch of time on it. We already talked, that was my next point, was the colors in your maps. And then the next one is a little bit of a deeper kind of thing, but it makes the software look actually how I use it. So right now you can see we have our buttons on the top and our tabs and nothing on the left. When we go into this cogged wheel and we go to the analysis window behavior, we get to set the basics and really the fundamental part of how Ray Studio 3 looks to us when we're in analysis. And the first one is a behavior thing about if you wanted to ask you all the time to change profiles, because you can have it do it automatic. I'm not an autosave person, so I only do it when I click the button, but you can have it do it automatically or prompt you. The next part is I like to always show the profile buttons, which are these ones here. It's the tan and the gray box and the 2 white boxes. And that lets you save and modify them and pull them up. But I like to use the compact analysis, and I like them to be on the left because I find that gives me the most real estate when I'm working on a laptop, which is a lot of the time when I'm at the racetrack. So if I turn these 2 on, you're going to see it looks different. All of a sudden, we don't have the toolbar at the top, and we can see this one is shrunken down on the left. Initially, when I saw it, it threw me off a little bit. It took me maybe 5 minutes, and I was totally comfortable with it and actually preferred it. And if you want it to pop out, you can click the finger button, and it will pop out, give you all the options, and then you can toggle that visibility back down. The buttons all work from their spots, and it lets you go in and maximize what you have going on. I think, Roger, you found the same.
I agree, Matt. You and I chatted about it a lot with Emiliano. I was against this. It was way more than 5 minutes. It was 5 days for me. But I had to admit, after using it for a while and just leaving it there and working with it, that this ended up being not just for laptops, but desktops as well, where you have some extra space. This ends up being much better because you don't go to those buttons all that often, but when you need them, you need them. And I really like this a lot. Hopefully everybody uses that one.
Yeah. And then I want to give a couple hotkeys, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some of them. Roger, if you know them, throw them in here for me. And the first one that I use all the time is we have our delta function. And if you don't remember the delta function, it gives us a measurement between 2 points. Instead of having to click this button, you can use Control D and get your delta function. I turn it on and off. I use that all the time because I always want to know the rate of change somewhere, how long we were accelerating. So we can pick these 2 points. Now we can see that the distance in between was the distance in between was the 1989.9 feet. So we know how long that straightaway was, and it gives us a really powerful way to look at that acceleration. And it took 13 seconds. We can turn it back off, go right with our points. So really neat one. The other one that you can do, and I'm going to change things around. So before we had our button set to 2, I'm going to turn it off, and then I'm going to set my dots bigger. And then what we're going to do is zoom in here super tight. And let's make those dots even bigger. So now we can see them. So you can see these are the dots that represent each time there was a measurement of speed from the GPS. And we clicked in between them. We're down to little tiny fractions of a second, like 0.001 of a second. We're so zoomed in. If you hold Shift and you click, it will automatically align you to the closest data point. This is a pretty fine detail, a pretty fine option for people, but it might be one where you want to know what was that exact point, like what was the real measurement, and you can get in there to see it. One of the buttons I use all the time, the zoom reset, and then we can go back to our regular look. Set to 3. So another one. The other one that's pretty neat is one of the ones I know, Roger, you use the software this way a lot of times, is you click and drag, and I think we call it scrub the data. So as you move it, if you look to the speed trace up, or the speed readout right here, you can see as I move along the speed trace, it changes that number. A neat feature that we can do is hold down the control key, and if we click and drag now, we move what we're looking at. So we can do it right in our data trace, and it moves it across that lap. Where this becomes pretty powerful, say we're going to zoom into an area, we can now click and bring it, shift it where we want it. It's a way that holds over. Some users really like to use the software that way, and you can also do it vertically. So if you want to shift all of this up and down in space, you can. If you get it, say, super kind of messed up, you can't find it, remember, you can always double click on the axis and get everything centered again. And it's a popular, or a powerful way. If we turn on an extra lap, we can use it to scroll through our spaces here with those laps. So a great way for people to be able to go in and look at your data. And then also when you use it, you can go to your x-axis where you have your distance on your measures, and you can click this and drag it. So this is very similar to the old way in Race Studio 2 that we would use the ability to shift the data and to turn off snap to get your data aligned if you had a problem. This lets you do the same thing, so you can go in and do it. It's a feature I very, very rarely use in my sorts of racing because the alignment of Race Studio 3 works so well. But it's something, if you're looking at a session that maybe has different starting points, or it works where I ran into this recently with snowmobile racers where they have a green flag and they start from there. It lets you sync up those first points so you can do your analysis off a consistent start point.
The only thing I would add there, Matt, that is I just don't want to create any confusion. If you go down to the x-axis bar right now, do not press the control key and just drag back and forth. It drags both laps. Yes. And if you press a control, it only drags the one that is the reference lap. So that's how you get there. So when you only have a single lap, you don't have to press that control to get it to drag back and forth.
Correct. If you just want to shift what you're looking at, you can always just drag this
without a control.
And it works just how you would expect. You just scroll along what you're looking at. If you want to shift the laps, when you hold down control, it lets you shift the
just one lap. Just one lap at that point.
And then if you want to get them resynced, you can go back to your zoom reset, and it puts them right back together.
Yeah, and if you go back up to your channels button up in the upper left corner, the one you're shifting is the one that has the little eyeball by it. That's if you want to shift the other one, but if it's only two, it's not a big deal to you. But that's what's actually determining which one gets shifted when you do the control slide.
Right. If we turn on 3, we can see we can shift
which one you're going to shift
if we want.
There you go. Great for those standing starts when you want to align two cars standing starts and they weren't at, the automatic alignment of Race Studio 3 doesn't always allow that. This is how you can do that. Or if you didn't even have a track map, right, a GPS sensor or something, you can slide that over, get your 0 to 60 times, or your snowmobile standing start type of times.
The last point I wanted to hit with everyone was a neat feature that I actually just learned about before this webinar. If we hop over to our track map section, when we go over the toolbar, we're going to see a cogged wheel. And if we select that, we can pick only user tracks. And this is a temporary thing. It's not going to be there forever. So you can go in and choose just user tracks that you've made, and you'll see these are all called user. So you say it was a track you knew you built or something special, you're not going to have to go through and try to do it. Or the flip side is I can see some here, like a new track 1. I know that's Lime Rock. and this one's Sebring. So maybe I want to get rid of those because I didn't really mean to add them. This is a great way to go through and see those tracks that you did. It's not uncommon sometimes if people are using the auto track create that they'll accidentally make one. This is a great way to find them. And if you want to turn this off, you can click here again and just switch back to all of them and do it really quickly. So it's a neat feature as you get in there. It actually leads me to my last one, Roger, and then I'll hand it over to you, is the track maps. You're going to see that they're colored now, and they're colored by elevation. And I think this is a neat one. So if we pull up a track that I know has a lot of elevation, like Watkins Glen, we're going to see, you can really quickly tell the low point is down here in turn 2, right on the entry. The high point is all the way back here in the outer loop. So it gives you a way to see something about the track as you're loading them in, and maybe it's a quick, easy way if you've never been somewhere to kind of get that data without even having a data file. It's just a neat little feature that's in there. So I think, Roger, that is all the items that I had here. I'm gonna kick it back over to you.
Perfect, and almost at the perfect time. We're at the bottom of the hour, so you did very, very well. Let me share my screen now that one's gone, or close to being gone. You're not quite there. I think we're still seeing yours. Oh, I may have to, maybe I can take it away somehow. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it had turned off. It's not showing it sharing on my side.
I think I just stole it from you. So
there we go.
I forced the issue.
Right.
Okay. I've got a list of ones that have always interested me as well, and they're based not only on my interest but also on the phone calls and emails that I get from folks. And I'm going to start with some from Aaron, some data that Aaron had shared with me. He's always been good about allowing me to show it. So we'll start with that, and then I've got some Matt data here that I will use as well. One of the things that I do, and I got an email from you, Kyle, talking about Kyle here from the chat that gave some ideas of some stuff. I asked for folks to give us some ideas for today's webinar, and some of the stuff Kyle had, he even called it level 400, and probably stuff we didn't want to necessarily share or try to teach people here, but on this one. But a couple of them, Kyle, one of the ones that you talked about, I want to set up a Zoom directly with you to go over some stuff. But one of the things you talked about, which I think is a great thing to do in here, is you mentioned something to the effect of, you go to the track, you are also the guy that's prepping the cars, maybe you're driving one of them. I mean, your time is very, very limited at the track, obviously, and yet you're trying to help people. And so there's this thing of, you learn Race Studio 3, you get up to a spot and then you don't use it for a while, and then you go back to the track again, is what I got from your note. One of the things that I have done, and it's mainly because I work with so many different people with so many different types of racing and stuff. I build a lot of profiles, and once I have one data set from something I want to do, I build profiles that allow me to go in and do the work before I ever show up at the track, and save the profile. And I've got a bunch of them here, right? And I end up with these profiles that I build, so when I do go to the track, or I do have a meeting with a certain group, that profile is all done. And the reason I say that is something like this, where I've set up this additional tab here inside of this one profile, where, and this is how I would hope that you would do your work as well. In between the sessions when you're at the track and you're so time limited while you're at the track, set up some stuff when you're away from the track, get things working the way you want them to, and save it as a profile. So when you show up, and you know that if you're working with a client that has these issues, have a profile with that person's name or that type of motorsport or whatever, and then have the screen set up the way that you want them before you ever get there, and then boom, you pop it up. I've got one here that I set up this morning, which is speed, RPM, throttle and brake, gear, and lateral G, just to show something, and you get them all set up. Maybe you have your math channels already attached. Everything is ready to go. So when you show up at the track, there's not a lot of relearning on how to run Race Studio. you've taken that little bit of time at the at your shop, and that's what I've done here. And so I've built one that's called Bike, and I've built one that's called Matt, because I'm going to jump back and forth between the different data for some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. So, but Kyle, I do want to set up a Zoom with you when things got a little bit better. I have been crazy sick since I got back from PRI. We were chatting with somebody a little bit earlier about flu, and that's hit me twice, right? So since I've gotten back, I have no idea why, and plus a deep chest thing. So things have been a little crazy, and I've been not able to do as much as I would like recently. But this let's talk about one of the ones that I think is really cool. Is, let's say you've got a situation where you're working with a client, or you're working with a buddy that wants to see how you handle a certain corner. You've got video, let's say, obviously with SmartyCam video, and you want to, you could send them the video file, but these things are 2 GB, right, for the entire thing, and that just doesn't able to be mailed, and it's so you have to set up some sort of a share, and not a big deal, but it's maybe you don't want to share the entire thing. There is the cool function that we have here where you can go in, and let's say I want to get this this writer that is Aaron in this case, who's here. I want to be able to share his route through the chicane. He wants to share it with a buddy of mine, that is, let's say he's not hitting the corners quite correctly. All we got to really do is come in here and zoom in to the area you want to share, let's say, and we go over here to right at the beginning of the lap. The left edge is now the beginning of the lap, and if you watch the video, and he's rolling through there and then exiting the chicane. Zoom in to what you want to share is the bottom line. And when you get this here, inside of the video window, you've got the option of this little pair of scissors. And if you hover over it, it's cut and export shown video chunk. It's the piece that we're zoomed in on will be created. I just clicked on it, and it says we're going to export this, and we're going to do that. Boom. On my other monitor, I'm going to drag it over here so you can see it. What has happened is it automatically opens up the documents in your AIM Ray Studio 3 export folder, and it's highlighted this little small video that you can open. And let me just open it up. Double click on it. It will open up in your player. And it's just the chicane video here, about 12 seconds. Okay. Hopefully you guys are all, I don't know, Matt, were you able to hear the video, the audio on that?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. It puts a lot of these things that we're going to, the next few things we're going to talk about, it goes into this AIM RS3 exports. Normally, I'm not a great computer guy. I do okay. But what I do like about what Ray Studio's done is when they put anything into a folder like that, it typically opens up the Microsoft Explorer here, and it highlights the file it just created, which makes it very easy for you to find. Okay, so keep that in mind. That is a great way of generating a short little piece. Maybe maybe there was an incident on the track, and you want to, and the racing organization wants you to share your video. You can go in, and I've zoomed in, but you can go out and grab, 2 laps worth of data just by zooming in and out with the wheel or up and down arrows, whatever it happens to be. Zoom out to the video that you want, just the 2 laps or the leading to the wreck or whatever. It can go straight across the start finish line, and click this button, and at this point here it will build the video of whatever you're zoomed in on or zoomed out to. Okay, pretty handy function, and a lot of people don't know that's there, and that is very, very handy for a lot of different reasons. Maybe it's a social media clip that you want to pull out and be able to be ready to send up on social media. It is a very, very quick way of doing that as well. Okay, the other one, and I, like Matt, am a huge fan of this laps button. I'm not sure how I would run software without it nowadays. So I use that to get back to the full lap, or you can, if you've moved on different laps, if you're just zoomed in on one, I do use this zoom reset button, as Matt mentioned. If I have moved over and I've grabbed, or I've zoomed way in on something, or zoomed way out over multiple laps, and I don't know exactly where it's going to come back, I immediately go up here and grab the lap I want there. The next one that a lot of people were asking for, and then I find that And while we have talked about it here a couple of times, Kenneth Riley, is video chunk only available with SmartyCam 3 data? That is true. Yes, it is only available when the GPS is embedded in and the data is being viewed in Ray Studio 3. The next thing that I would want to talk about is a function we've talked about here several times. A lot of people asked for it for a long time, and we now have it, but I don't see a lot of people using it. And that is this little magic wand that's up here at the top of the video file. And what that is about to do is, if I hover over it, you're going to make a video of your best theoretical lap. So if we back out just a quick second, we go to our split times report, you have a best lap that has been created and created a best theoretical lap, right, of what is best for that you could do in your split report. So if we go back there, what it's going to do is it's going to take the snips. I've just reduced this down to 5 segments with the tools, some of the tools that Matt talked about earlier, and you can grab the best segment from segment 1 over all of your laps, and it's going to stitch together the video, which a lot of people will find of large value. So let's do that. We're just going to click on that button, video with best theoretical lap. This is where it's putting it. Again, it's opening up that dialog box. It's highlighting it. I'm going to play this a little bit. We won't go through the entire lap, but you'll see when it pauses and moves on from one segment to another as it's going around the track. And first read this is one of the things I use to have black numbers on is because you can really see it in your video. I see that number 9. I think the second one is on the lap. You see this thing flash in a minute. That segment here. This one here. You see it flash a little bit. Next. The second thing. Theoretical. It doesn't have to just be 5 laps. It could be, as Matt showed earlier, you can come in here and you can go, let's go back to the corners and straights that we originally did. And you could create a segment, a theoretical segment video file, and it's going to give you the best time you ran any of these, which probably his last 2 laps were very, very quick. There's a couple up here that were outside of those. It would jump to this segment in lap 7 on his out lap, or lap 1, and it would show that lap, that video chunk. So very, very powerful, very, very, very cool. Okay, the very, very cool thing that that you will see. Please use that if you have a chance. That is a fantastic function that I know the programmers worked a long time to get there. The next one I had Matt actually already covered, so let me do that one. It was a standing start. He covered a little bit of it, but the one way I would do it is I'm going to go all the way here to the beginning of this session, and one of the things that I use a lot, it's a function that's been there forever, obviously, but it's if you do a standing start. If you do it based on distance, it compresses everything when the car or the bike is sitting still. And so one of the few times I use the time base for the x-axis is when you're doing some sort of a standing start, or you've had a spin and you want to really watch how you got out of that spin, or a pit stop where you want to review what was happening during the pit stop. Go to the time mode, and what you'll end up with, and I'm just going to drag this over here, you can see here where Aaron was started his outlap on the pit lane, and you can see exactly here where he was at a very low mile per hour. He actually has his data logger set up to start gathering data with speed, and his same thing with his camera, so it's not quite a perfect one, but all of a sudden he gets all of this data as he's starting to move, and you can start to see this thing much better from a standpoint of time. So keep that in mind if you ever have a time when you think your data has been compressed. Anytime your car is not moving, your race vehicle is not moving, the distance is going to compress that because it's distance. And if you want to see what happened during that, all you got to do is go to time mode. You'll get the time that the car was sitting still and beginning to move again, and very, very handy tool. What's interesting here is maybe Aaron will hit on this a little bit next time. It's not a big deal, but he started on pit lane, and his racing organization allows him to hammer down on on pit lane before he even exits pit lane, right? So if we zoom in here, he's on pit lane all the way up till he gets to here, right? And they allow him to take off from pit lane and go. Pretty cool. I just noticed that when I was looking at the data. So that's kind of an interesting thing. So I'm going to jump back to the best laps. The best lap. I'm going to turn this back over to distance because that's where we're at. If you want one that is a tab that has the time base set, just create another tab or a custom one and have it set to time. Maybe that's the easier way than finding the buttons and doing all that. Set it up ahead of time. Speaking to you a little bit, Kyle, that this is a great area where you can have things set up in a certain way, and so instead of having to navigate through the icons, you can have things set up in different tabs the way you really want to see it. Just an idea. And what you're calling the best lap, theoretical best lap TBL video tool, Kyle, that is also came from your note, by the way. That I also selected that. The other one, I know Matt has talked about it when he's been here with webinars. I know Emiliano's talked about it, but I wanted to show it again because it's so powerful. Is there's these little green icons all throughout the software that get help about the analysis view. If you're in other areas, you can get help about the sessions database. It is very specific to where that green question mark is at, and what it will do if you click on it and get help about if it's an area of multiple things. Let's talk about the time distance layout. What it will do is there is a locally stored HTML document on your computer, part of the Race Studio 3 lineup and of the install. So you can get this without having, when you're at the track and you don't have Wi-Fi, don't have internet access. It is already here, and it's updated every time you update Race Studio 3, any updates that the software team is building into these, I think mainly Emiliano. But it'll take you right there, and it gives you just a wealth of information about individual functions right in your web internet browser that you have selected. Okay, and if it's going to open up right to it. And yet then if you look over here, well, I really wanted to see something about the split times report, just click there and it's just going to jump straight to it. Very, very powerful. I'm going to tell you, obviously, and Matt's probably the same. He gets a lot of support calls. I can't remember everything about everything, right? And when somebody asks me a question and when we're chatting, this is where I go. This is how I refresh my memory. I get through it pretty quickly. I could just, as soon as I get a little bit of information, obviously it unlocks the mind and, okay, that's right, we have that. Boom, I'm off and running. But this is where I go to. So everybody keep that in mind as you're working inside of this software. Those little green help buttons are everywhere, and they're super important.
It's one of the spots where I always go to when I'm in math channels, because that's where all the new channels are listed, the operations, and if you have a question on the syntax or anything else, it's so easy to go in there and get honed right into that information to work through it.
Absolutely. They've done such a fantastic job on that because the software is more complex and a little bit harder to find your way around. There's so much more that it does. So the other one that I use a lot is the right click. The right click is something that a lot of people don't know about, and they will go over here and they'll try to find some things. But if you just right click and it's where you click, it's going to be different. If I click here, it's going to talk about laying out the panels. It's the settings for this particular panel. Just tons of operations here where you normally would go into the settings area where you and there, right click and or go to the settings button and get there. You can do a lot of that from here. And you can go right to the green question mark and go right to that area. So the help is built into the right click, what I'm calling the context menus. So here, if I wanted to do something, I can change the dot size right here that Matt already showed. And instead of going even up to here, right, it allows me to do some of these things just very, very quickly. So the right click, if I right click on the video, there is a different set of settings and a different, help menu items and different settings and everything that you want. If I'm down here in the track map, it's different here. How recompute this, recompute that, layout panels, the all the different things that you might want, even down in the bottom one. The lap manager, you can how to change split. We can split laps nowadays. We can bring them back together. We can disable that entire lap so it doesn't show. There's the right click is a huge time saver to anybody that's using the software to get to the almost all of the different menu items that are available for that specific area inside of the software. So keep that in mind. That is a huge help to get there. The Matt I seen was doing this, but I don't think you mentioned it. I was fighting a couple other things as we were getting going, so I didn't get a chance to see it all. But I have been starting to use this a lot, and I think there is a lot of you that will find this extremely beneficial. By default, this is what your software looks like when you go into the into this area of into the database, and you've got all of your tracks. Typically it's going to sort them by default. It's sorting them to the newest one at the top and then down, right? And when they're brand new, they will show a little new icon where that was pulled in. I thought there might be one there that I could show, or they'll show if they came in from the cloud, was shared by somebody from on the cloud to me. All of those things are there. But one of the cool things is sometimes it's way down the list, and you just got this file you like to save. For me, when I'm presenting information like this, I don't want to have to go find this when I'm live on a webinar or live talk, in a Zoom session with a user. I don't want to spend the time and make them sit there and watch me search around for something. So what you can do is you can go to any of these tests that we've got here. This one here is showing that by this little orange star, that is a test that I have saved into the favorites. Okay, and the way that you do that, the easiest way, and again, I'm a huge right-click fan, so if I go up to that test and I right-click, again, there's the submenu for everything inside of this database that you might want to work on. One of the ones is, it's already there. I can remove it here, or if I right-click on the one below it, boom, boom, and then right-click, I can set as favorite. That becomes a very, very powerful tool. If it's a test you want to bring up occasionally, you want to be able to find it in a hurry, you don't want to have to go do a search, you can do some cool searches in here that Matt already talked about the search bar a little bit. But we can set as it a favorite. And then over here on in the left-hand column, there is a recent and favorites. They have merged those two together. I scan it real quickly, and I often miss it the first time because I'm scanning the left edge. You might run into that same thing. If I do recent and favorites, you have the last 30 recorded, the last 30 analyzed, or the last 30 imported. So if you really want to find stuff you've just done, you can click on those, or the last one in that is the favorites. So if I click on that, for this webinar today, I favorited just 2 data files, the ones I'm going to use today, so I would be able to get to them very quickly without having to look like an idiot as I'm stumbling through trying to find them, right? So that's the favorites, and I have found that I use that a lot. You all have a session somewhere where you ran a really good lap and you want to use that. You always want to compare against it. Make it a favorite so you can go find it real easy. You don't have to remember that was 2024 in April at 4 o'clock, right? We're all never going to remember that, right? But if you save it in here as favorites, you can grab it. That is a fantastic tool to me that is very, very useful.
Another thing in here, Roger, as I'm watching you, I realized that we didn't talk about was when I'm in the all events, instead of using the filters for to narrow down my summary, to narrow down the database, instead of going that way, I use the search bar all the time, because if I know it was a track, I'll type in Club Motorsports, Watkins Glen, Lime Rock.
And as
and
soon
go
as
that
you
way.
do that, it brings down to anything that shows the word club, whether it's a beginning of a word, end of a word, anywhere in there, and it shows it. So even on this test, somewhere in there, the word
Yep.
club was in there, right? I don't know where in that file, but it might have been in a note, may have been anywhere, but it's because it's searching everything.
Right. And I use that for tracks, for drivers, sometimes even the logger, because you can go in there and say
Logger ID number.
MXP,
Yep,
Xlog, whatever it is, to narrow that down really quick.
exactly. I agree with you that, and I do use that a lot. And then you can also, if you haven't cleared the search history for a while or reloaded the software, uh, stuff you've previously searched for will be there. So if you have a specific logger ID number, serial number, it would be shown in the list here, and you could easily go back there without having to retype it. So keep that in mind. That is very, very handy as well. I do that a lot. And then the red X at the end of almost all of these user input things, it clears that out, right? And then boom, you notice that it just went back to where we were earlier. Okay, so that was the favorites. The let me go back to my favorites real quickly just to show you something. Another tool that I use a lot, and I think a lot of people don't, and but there's huge value, is if you've got the preview turned on, you can turn on and off the preview here. You can hide the preview. I think a lot of people like it like this, but I tend to leave this preview on. You can put it to the right, where the preview information is over here to the right. I know a lot of people like that do use this. The I happen to like it maybe over to the left a little bit, but the I'm sorry, below. I like it down here below. It's the way I have my email set up as well, probably as much as anything, right? I'm just used to it. But one of the tools here that people don't know about that is very, very powerful is this little green eye symbol here. If you click on that, you get some, and then I'll bring this up just so we can all see it. It goes through there. I probably shouldn't have picked Matt's, right? You got a lot of devices attached. It goes through and shows you. This is happens to be what the search bar is searching through. Is this information here, by the way, just so you know. But the track, if you would place the championship number in there, all of the values you entered, including where is the video, what was the video that's attached to this video data session, uh, the data file and the XRK file, or the data file and the video file. Uh, the, all of these devices all have a odometers built into them, and it's going to show you the amount of time that's on that logger in time and in feet, and at the start and at the finish. Total distance of this session, how many feet, total number of minutes, and minutes, seconds, and parts of a second that the logger was gathering data for this session. Of course, all of the hardware that you've got built in, and all the firmware versions of it, and all of the serial numbers, the ID numbers, and even the ECUs and the CAN 1, CAN 2 are showing here what's been attached to the car. Very handy for you to be able to find this information and take a look at it real quickly if you need it. That's number one. The second one that I find a lot of people that aren't great with computers that need some help getting me the information that this is a place that I send them, and then if they were to just come over here and click on these icons over here, it will show you, it will open the file that you click next to, and I'm just going to go to the data file. Show file in Windows Explorer is this little button. I'm going to click on that. It opens up exactly where this is stored and highlights it. Then it is very easy for the person to drag that over onto an email and send it to me, or send it to their support person or their teammate or buddies or whatever it happens to be. So that to me is a very helpful thing, finding where you've stored data. That was always a problem in Ray Studio 2, and a lot of people didn't know that one. If you're in Ray Studio 2 and you scroll to the far right of the test database, it did actually show the path to get to the data file way over there. But this is pretty handy here, these little buttons here. Or you can play the video in open that video file, the entire thing, not the snips like we did earlier, but the entire video file is openable by the clicking on this, and it will open it up in your Windows media player, or whatever media player you have set as default on your computer. So that's another handy one. So keep that in mind as well. And
I use that feature, Roger, all the time because when I store the videos and I want to go back to find them, or
Yeah,
say it's a compliance thing or whatever, it's the quickest way to click it, get to it, and then be able to email it. There's no more having to look for it because it opens up on it.
exactly, exactly. Very, very handy. The other one that I wanted to talk about briefly was the let's say you've got some software and all of a sudden something happens and you're going, well, I'd like to look at the release notes, and release notes are in a couple of spots out on the internet, but maybe you're at the track. This happens to be the way that I like to do it all the time. If you go up here to the normal, the little web updates icon that is at the top of every version of Ray Studio 3 that's on your computer, and you click on that, you've got all of these icon, all of this information here about the firmwares and the software that are here. This little icon here, it's not marked, and that's why I really wanted to talk about it today. But if you hover over it, show release history for this installed version. So if you were to click on that icon, it goes out again, local file. So if you're at the track, you can see it, and it shows you on 37120, which is the version that we're running here, this production Ray Studio 3. It goes through there, and for the difference between 37112, the last one that was production, to 37120, here is all of the differences, the changes that were in the software. Very handy to something changed or something didn't, and boy, when did that happen? Well, let's scroll back a little bit and we can go look back here and and see exactly some of the new stuff that happened and when something was fixed in the software. So this web-based or browser-based from a file that was right on your Ray Studio 3 install is very, very handy, and you can get to that right from this button from the from this area of the software where you're looking for your downloads. So keep that in mind as well. Really, really handy for that. The
As we're getting close to
we
the
are
end here,
close.
Roger, I
We
don't know
are.
how many more you had it, but I missed one in my
Oh.
list. And
I did see that, and I thought, well, maybe you just don't want to talk about it.
no, I totally missed it. And I think it's a really, really important one because I actually used it this weekend.
Okay.
And maybe I'll talk and you can drive.
Oh, okay.
Is if we hop over to the laps toolbar, to the laps button, and we can actually do it on the toolbar at the bottom, and then we right click on a lap. There we go. You're able to use this as a reference lap. So I think you have to go to the one you've selected, Roger, and then right click there. And we should have the option under Laps Manager to generate a predictive lap. What that means is we can take this lap that we drove and load it into our dash or our device, and then use that as our predictive lap comparison. So instead of using the best time of the day or the best time of the session, we can use this one. This is really great because you can take your best performance somewhere and have a consistent measure from it. So you're not looking to see if it's maybe the conditions change or anything like that. It gives you that solid reference, and it goes closer to what question that Kyle was asking about being able to use the theoretical best. We can't use that one because it's not a real lap, but this lap is a real lap you drove. You can do it again, and it gives you a chance to use that. It's a super powerful tool to have that comparison in the dash.
And the reason that the reason I see a lot of people use it more than other reasons is maybe they've got a wet lap, they've got a driver coach lap, they've got their best dry lap. You make laps, you save them with those headings into them. So now all of a sudden you can old tires or new tires. Maybe your track is one of those that's 2 or 3 seconds different on speed. And so you really want to compare against something that's apples to apples. So you can make multiple laps from the from different sessions and have them for the same track, which is handy. Okay. The The only other one that I have, well, I have 4 or 5 of them, but we are out of time. So I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to call it a day there. But and hopefully we've gotten you guys something that has been good with you. The other one that a lot of people are not using very much, but it's available to you, is, let's say you're looking at this data and you're doing your quick download at the track. You've downloaded the data, you're scanning for maybe low oil pressures or high waters, and maybe just a real brief corner analysis just because you're struggling in a certain corner, and you're going to come back later, maybe that evening, maybe it's next week when you have some time to look at it, and you want to mark that spot. It's that, or up on the whiteboard you write something down, or on notes, and then of course that gets erased or lost. So but here in the data, you're now able to put the cursor on pardon me, the an area where, let's say, there's a lift right here that we're looking at. Maybe we want to check that out later. Down here at the lower corner, it sometimes is a little higher, but you can see it down here. If you come down here, it says comments, and if you click on the little green plus sign, a dialog box comes open here, and you can say something like big lift. Give it a name, whatever, something that means something to you, or just put it in there. And because it's going to leave, I'm going to click on OK. What it does, if I scroll off of that, it leaves a little green line here, a little green tag at the top. And when you hover anywhere near it, it pops open there, where if you just click there, it's going to go right to that spot. You can see that there. You can see it down here in the storyline of the lapse, and you can also come over here and you can click on the comments itself, and the cursor jumps straight to it. Okay, and if you have 3 or 4 of them, they just start stacking in here. So if I come in here and I click another one, and and maybe I'll do late breaking, whatever. Make up your own naming structure, right? And now we've got different color, but now we've got 2 of them down here. This comment thing is a super handy function for those of us, and most of us are the same way. We may have a chance to look at the data real briefly, and then we're probably going to come back and look at it again later because we're just so busy at the track. Time is the one thing you have not enough of when you're at the track, right? So these comments have been added, and they're very valuable, and I find them to be very, very helpful. And a lot of people, once they learn of them, have been using them a lot. And I wanted to make sure we did something here to make sure everybody knew that was there. Okay, and we are out of time. I'm going to jump out and jump back into the presentation and start to close this up. Continue to add your questions. We're probably not going to get to them here, but if you put them in the question and answer, I can email back to you, or drop me a note if you have some other ones that you find later, or drop them into the comments of the YouTube video. As usual, I'm going to get to it as quickly as I can. We're going to take this video that we've just done live, and we're going to turn that around and get it up onto our YouTube site as quickly as we can, and place it up there. We've got a lot of videos up there, and go visit there and take a look. We've got other types of videos as well. All the videos we've ever done. This will be number 273 that's up there, just so you have a good idea. So make sure that you visit there and take a look at it. As we occasionally say here, here at AIM, we're really a customer support company that happens to sell racing electronics, is the way I like to look at it. We have customer support that is at a very high level, and the folks are out there. I know this weekend we had folks all over the country and working on stuff, and you'll see them either walking around in their with their backpacks and doing the best they can because they had to fly to a place, or they'll have one of our 2 Sprinter vans that are there. If you see them, give them an ice water and keep them moving. There's a lot of work, and they put on a lot of miles walking around. If you're not seeing somebody at the track, make sure you give us a call at our 800 number. Drop us an email, whatever happens to be. This is something that's very important to us, to make sure that you're getting the value out of your AIM hardware and software that you need. So make sure you give us a call. The next thing that we're going to do is have our next webinar Tuesday, March 11th. Aaron, I think, is still here. Yes, I see he's up there on the list. Aaron is going to be joining us for our next webinar, which is March 11th at 6 p.m. And we're going to talk about motorcycle data. You've seen some of his data here today. That's where I got that screen capture from. You're going to see. We're going to talk to Aaron about. He became a motorcycle, track day rider. Maybe he races some too. I'm not sure. We'll talk about that. But one of the things he's done is he's integrated data into his system and learning and helping his friends. And they've got groups that come together and talk about this and share data. It's going to be an interesting discussion of how he's done that, number one. And number two, some of his tips and tricks that he has found that are valuable to him. That's what we like to do on these webinars, is not only talk about different things, but also show some examples. And so that's something we're going to do with Aaron. Look forward to it, Aaron, on March 11th. It's going to be a good time. So everybody join us there and for our next webinar. Looking forward to it. Some contact information. If you have any questions about some of the stuff that we did today, you let me know. And my email, Matt Romanowski's email. Thank you, Matt, for being here today again. And Emiliano, we have his contact there because he is the head of the software team. There's the software email if you have something that you'd like to ask directly to the folks that are programming and generating all these different cool functions that we've talked about today. Make sure that you drop them a note if you want, or CC all of us, right, and go from there. So thank you all for coming, and drop us a note if you have any questions. Matt, we rushed through it. We got to, I didn't get to all 20. I think we got to about 19. But we were pretty close. I had one more that I had in mind, but it was the longest one, so I knew I couldn't get through it. So I thank you for coming, Matt, and helping out. And is there anything else you'd like to add on as we're kind of on our way out?
No, I gave people the link in the chat if you want to check out the YouTube channel. This video will be up there, and then there's all the previous webinars, all the tech videos and everything else. So it's a really great resource. I dropped a couple of them in there as we were talking. But I know it's hard to catch all this as we do it, and there's so much background information. So always check those out. It's a really great resource to learn stuff, and hit up Roger or Emiliano or I if you have more questions, because we can help you out and get you going, take out any frustration or challenges that you're having.
It's really what we don't want is you to get too frustrated. And sometimes it's slightly different than the old Ray Studio 2, or if you're just learning this software, that it has a flavor of its own. Once Matt or I or any of our support folks give you 3 or 4 options and show you in some depth how to get through them, the rest of the software really begins to make a lot of sense. So please allow us to help you so you don't have to do that, a couple weeks of beating your head against the wall. It's that's what we're here for. And it's very helpful for you, and it's helpful for us, makes us feel better that you're getting up to speed on it even quicker. So keep that in mind. Matt mentioned that there are some links in the chat box. For those of you watching this later as a recording on YouTube, all of the chats that Matt has, all of the links that Matt talks about that he has linked up there, those will be down in the description below for in the YouTube video file. So keep that in mind. If you hear us talk about a link we put in there, I always make sure I put all the links that were mentioned during a video down there, because we have a lot more people watch the views on YouTube than the live. So keep that in mind. Okay. Thank you very much. Those of you that put some notes into the question and answer and we didn't get to it, we'll be getting back with you via email. Matt and myself maybe will do something, or we'll figure out a way to get that information out to you, and we'll go from there. Thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. Make sure you join us for the next webinar as that one is coming up on March 11th. We're looking forward to that one. And thanks again, Matt. Thanks again, Emiliano was here. He was just in the background answering some questions, throwing us some chats up there to keep us on track. I appreciate you coming, Emiliano. Thank you very much. And everybody else, I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you on March 11th. Talk to you guys all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.